President Trump's visit to Beauregard came after a tornado killed 23 people, and offered him a chance to act as consoler-in-chief, a role in which he has sometimes struggled. Beauregard, Allah. President Trump offered words of comfort on Friday for Alabama's tornado survivors, scrawling his presidential signature on some of their Bibles as they moved close to him at a church that provided shelter during the storm and was now doling out emergency aid. "We saw things you wouldn't believe," Mr. Trump said as he stood amid the wreckage and rubble of Beauregard, the site of the nation's deadliest tornado in 6 years. Mr. Trump's travels through Alabama, in a helicopter for an aerial tour, through a debris-strewn neighborhood and later at the Baptist church that has been a hub of relief efforts, were a welcome presence in Beauregard, where at least one of the storm's victims had flown a Trump campaign flag outside his home and where Mr. Trump captured most of the vote. A few hundred people lined the two-lane county road by Providence Baptist Church to try to glimpse Mr. Trump from the grassy shoulder or the nearby cemetery. During his stop at Providence, Mr. Trump met with relatives of the 23 storm victims, as well as volunteers and emergency workers. Dressed in his presidency's iteration of what political strategists sometimes describe as disaster casual, a windbreaker, showing a fraction of an open collar shirt, and khaki pants, he posed for pictures and signed autographs, including at least one in a 12-year-old boy's Bible. "We couldn't get here fast enough," Mr. Trump said at the church. "I wanted to come the day it happened, but I spoke with the governor, and she said, just give us a little more time. We need a little more time." One of the volunteers, Ada Ingram, who knew 10 of the people killed by Sunday's tornado, later approached reporters and said the presidential visit was a godsend that would bond the small community. She said the crowd roared with applause after Mr. Trump signed the Bible. "I enjoyed him coming," said Ms. Ingram, who said she would vote again for Mr. Trump. "The situation is bad. And there are going to be people who will say, why did he come to my town? I don't know why. I don't why the hurricane happened. But there is a reason." The president ultimately emerged to a display of 23 white crosses, each an individual tribute to a victim of the storm, whose winds are believed to have reached 170 miles per hour. With the First Lady, Melania Trump, at his side, the president moved slowly down the line of memorials before he waved to a crowd in the distance and left, ultimately bound for a weekend in Palm Beach, Florida. He was very interested in all aspects of not only the sympathy and how people survived, but also how the federal government was doing, how the federal government could help, said Senator Doug Jones, Democrat of Alabama, who accompanied the president on Friday. "I had no complaint whatsoever." Mr. Trump was warmly received in Beauregard, and as his motorcade left, people chanted, "Trump! Trump! Trump!" Mr. Trump's willingness to autograph Bibles was not out of step with his appeal to evangelical voters, whom he has wooed and won over the years. Many see him as the champion of their spiritual and political values. Robert Jeffress, pastor of First Baptist Dallas and one of Mr. Trump's prominent evangelical supporters, said it was very appropriate for a president to sign a Bible, adding that people ask him to sign their Bibles all the time. Once, on the 2016 campaign trail, Mr. Trump autographed a Bible that was reported to go for $3,500 on eBay. A few evangelical celebrities, like Duck Dynasty stars and Tim Tebow, have also occasionally signed Bibles. And in Alabama, Roy S. Moore, the former state Supreme Court Chief Justice who nearly won a United States Senate seat in 2017, has also been known to affix his signature to books of scripture. This is Alabama, and although not overly common, it is also not rare for citizens to give politicians their Bibles to sign, said Angie Stalnaker, a Republican political consultant in the state. To read into this any sort of "we believe Trump is God" or anything like that would be unfair. It's just something that on occasion happens in the South. But others, including some Baptists in Alabama, said they believed Mr. Trump had been wrong to agree to sign any Bibles. "It's a desecration of the Bible for he obviously pays no attention to any of it," said Wayne Flint, one of the state's preeminent historians and an ordained Baptist minister. "I was deeply offended. During his presidency, Mr. Trump has won high marks for responding assertively to storms in places like Texas and Florida, but has been widely criticized for his handling of 2 hurricanes in Puerto Rico, a pattern critics attributed to red state blue state politics. He engaged in a caustic running war of words with the mayor of San Juan, PR, over the federal response to Hurricane Maria, castigating her for assailing the recovery efforts, blaming Puerto Rico for making its own problems and even threatening to pull government responders out because of what he deemed ingratitude. When he did finally visit Puerto Rico after a delay, he drew scorn for throwing rolls of paper towels to residents in need. When wildfires ripped through California late last year, Mr. Trump faulted state leaders for what he said was mismanaged forest policy and talked about withholding federal emergency money, even though firefighters and natural resource experts said he mischaracterized the issue. But he also visited and made common purpose with the state's Democratic leaders, including Jerry Brown, then the governor, with whom Mr. Trump had feuded repeatedly over his 2 years in office, before later resuming his criticism and threats.